Jack Carter stood at the observation window of Lunar Base Alpha, his eyes fixed on the strange markings they had uncovered beneath the moon's surface. The discovery had happened 3 days ago, but he still couldn't believe what they were seeing. After 15 years as a xenorchaeologist, this was the moment he had waited for his entire career. "Dr. Carter, you need to see this," Dr. Lisa Bennett called from the excavation chamber. Her voice carried a mix of excitement and worry through the comm system. He made his way through the airlock, his magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor. The chamber was well lit now, revealing walls covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow with a faint blue light. Lisa stood before a newly uncovered section, her tablet scanning the markings. The computer finished the initial translation. She said, not looking up from her work, "It's not just one alien civilization we're looking at. There are layers here, Jack. 7 distinct civilizations, each more advanced than the last." Jack moved closer to the wall, his gloved hand hovering over the symbols. 7 different species found the moon, and each one left their mark. Yes, but that's not the strange part. Lisa turned to face him, her face visible through her helmet visor. They all vanished. Every single one of them disappeared after discovering Earth. The dates vary, but the pattern is clear. The chamber felt colder suddenly, despite their climate-controlled suits. Jack's mind raced with possibilities. How long ago are we talking about? The oldest marks date back 2 million years. The most recent ones. She checked her tablet. About 10,000 years ago, just before human civilization began to develop. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Commander Peter Walsh. The Space Defense Force officer had been assigned to their project after the first signs of alien writing had been found. He moved with the careful precision of someone used to lunar gravity. "Both of you need to come see this," Walsh said, his voice tight. "We found something in Section C." They followed him through the tunnel network they had carved into the moon's crust. Section C was the deepest part of their excavation, and it held the oldest writings they had found. But what Walsh showed them wasn't writing. It was a room, a perfect cube, each wall made of a material that looked like black glass. In the center floated a hologram of Earth, slowly rotating. "It activated when we cleared the last of the dust," Walsh explained. "Watch." A holographic Earth suddenly changed. Red lines appeared across its surface, forming complex patterns that reminded Jack of circuit boards. Then, one by one, dots of light began to appear around the planet. 7 different colors, 7 different patterns of movement. "Those must represent the civilizations," Lisa whispered. "Look how they approach Earth." And then, she trailed off as each set of lights, in turn, scattered away from the planet, spreading out into space before vanishing entirely. Jack moved closer to the hologram. "They're showing us what happened. Each race came to Earth, discovered something, and then fled. But what were they running from?" As if in answer to his question, the hologram changed again. The Earth turned transparent, revealing its layers. At its core, something moved, something that shouldn't be there. "That's impossible," Lisa said, her scientific mind struggling with what she was seeing. "There can't be artificial structures inside Earth's core. The pressure, the heat, unless they were put there by something far more advanced than we can imagine." Jack finished her thought. Commander Walsh cleared his throat. "The real question is, what do we do with this information? If 7 advanced civilizations ran away after finding this, maybe we should consider—" "No," Jack cut him off. "We can't run. Earth is our home. Whatever this is, whatever those other races found, we need to understand it. We need to know what we're dealing with." Lisa's tablet beeped, drawing their attention. "New translation coming through," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "It's a message, repeated in all 7 languages. It says, 'The prison must hold. The guardian must not wake. We flee so others may live.'" They stood in silence, watching the hologram cycle through its warning again and again. Humanity had always looked to the stars, wondering why they seemed so empty, why no one had contacted them. Now they had their answer, and it was more terrifying than they could have imagined. Their home, their planet, was something else entirely, and they had just found out that they might not be its inhabitants, but its jailers. 3 weeks after the initial discovery, Jack Carter sat in the main conference room of Lunar Base Alpha, surrounded by holographic displays of the alien writings. Dark circles under his eyes showed his lack of sleep, but the excitement of their findings kept him going. Dr. Lisa Bennett walked in, carrying fresh data tablets. "The analysis of the 7th civilization's records is complete," she said, setting down her equipment. "Each one was more advanced than we could have imagined. The last group had mastered dark energy manipulation." Commander Walsh leaned forward in his chair. "And you're certain about the timeline? They all vanished within months of detecting Earth." "Absolutely certain," Lisa replied, pulling up a timeline display. "The longest any civilization stayed was 8 months. The shortest, just 2 weeks after their first Earth scan." Jack stood up and walked to the main display, where images of the different alien writings floated in the air. "What's strange is that they all had different technologies, different approaches, but they all came to the same conclusion. They had to leave." The door slid open, and Dr. Amy Howard entered. The cryptologist had been working non-stop on decoding the more complex messages left behind. "I found something," she said, her voice tight with excitement. "In the oldest language, there's a repeating sequence. It's not just a warning, it's coordinates." The room fell silent. Jack turned to face her. "Coordinates? To where?" Amy connected her tablet to the main display. A 3-dimensional map of the solar system appeared, with a blinking point on Mars. "Here, there's an outpost hidden beneath the surface of Mars, and according to these readings, it's still active." Commander Walsh immediately activated his comlink. "This is Walsh. I need a secure line to Earth Command." He stepped out of the room, already discussing mission parameters. Lisa moved closer to the map. "Look at these energy readings. Whatever's there, it's been running for millions of years. The power source alone must be incredible." "But that's not all," Amy continued. "The messages suggest this outpost was some kind of monitoring station. They were watching Earth, measuring something deep within the planet." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. The prison they mentioned. They were keeping track of whatever's down there. The base's alert system suddenly activated, its soft blue lights turning red. The main screen switched to a view of Earth. Strange energy patterns were emerging from the planet's core, visible even from the moon. "That's new," Lisa whispered, her fingers flying over her tablet. "The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database. It's like the planet is waking up." Commander Walsh rushed back in. "Earth Command is picking up the same readings. They're detecting movement patterns in the core that don't match any known geological activity." "We need to get to that outpost on Mars," Jack said firmly. "Whatever the aliens built there, it might help us understand what we're dealing with." Amy pulled up more decoded messages. According to this, each civilization added their own monitoring systems to the outpost. They were building on each other's work, trying to understand the threat. And they all reached a point where they decided running was better than staying. Lisa added quietly. The room's lights flickered as another energy surge came from Earth. The patterns were becoming more frequent, more intense. "Earth Command has approved an emergency mission to Mars," Walsh announced. "We leave in 48 hours. Dr. Carter, Dr. Bennett, you're both on the team. Dr. Howard, we'll need you coordinating from here, continuing to decode those messages." Jack looked at the energy readings from Earth, watching them pulse like a heartbeat. Whatever those ancient races were guarding against, it's responding to something. Maybe to us finding out about it. "The question is," Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper, "are we ready for what we might find on Mars? Those civilizations were far more advanced than us, and they chose to run." "We don't have that choice," Jack replied, his jaw set firmly. "Earth is our home. If something's been imprisoned there, we need to know why, and we need to know how to keep it contained. The room fell silent again, all eyes drawn to the pulsing patterns coming from their home planet. Something was stirring in Earth's core, something that had frightened away 7 advanced civilizations. And humanity, ready or not, was about to discover why. The Martian outpost wasn't what they expected. Jack Carter stared at the massive door built into the red cliff face, its surface covered in symbols from all 7 alien civilizations. Their small team had spent 3 days digging it out of the Martian soil. The power systems are still running, Lisa Bennett said, checking her instruments. After millions of years, it's still active. Her spacesuit's lights reflected off the metallic surface, creating strange patterns. Commander Walsh moved forward with his scanning equipment. No signs of traps or defense systems. Whatever this place is, they wanted future visitors to find it. The team had landed their ship, the Starseeker, 2 kilometers away. Now, standing before this ancient structure, Jack felt both excitement and fear. "Let's get this door open," he said. It took them another hour to figure out the opening mechanism. When the door finally slid aside, it revealed a long corridor that lit up automatically as they entered. The walls were covered in more writing, but these weren't warnings. They were instructions. "This is amazing." Amy Howard's voice came through their comms from Lunar Base. She was watching through their suit cameras. Each civilization left detailed notes about their observations. "They're teaching us how to use their equipment." The corridor led them to a massive chamber. Holographic displays sprang to life as they entered, showing detailed scans of Earth's interior. The images were far more detailed than anything human technology could produce. "Look at these readings," Lisa said, moving to one of the control panels. They weren't just monitoring Earth's core. They were monitoring something inside it, something artificial. Jack studied the displays. "These patterns, they match what we've been seeing for the past week. The energy surges, the movement. Whatever's down there, it's becoming more active." A new hologram appeared in the center of the room, a 3-dimensional model of Earth, but transparent, showing layers of technology embedded within its core. The sight made them all stop and stare. "That's impossible," Walsh whispered. "The core temperatures would melt any known material." "Any known human material," Lisa corrected him. "But we're looking at technology millions of years ahead of ours." Amy's voice crackled through again. "I'm getting more translations. According to this, Earth wasn't formed naturally. It was built, constructed around something they needed to contain." Jack moved closer to the hologram. A prison planet. But what could be so dangerous that they'd build an entire world to contain it? The answer came in the form of another hologram, a swirling mass of energy and matter that seemed to twist in impossible ways. Looking at it made their heads hurt. "It's some kind of entity," Lisa said, reading the data. "Something from." "The translations aren't clear, but it seems to be from outside our reality. It can change the laws of physics themselves." Walsh checked his instruments. "The energy readings from Earth are getting stronger. They match these patterns exactly." "That's not all," Amy added. "I've decoded more of the text. The aliens didn't just leave because they were afraid. They left because their presence was making it stronger. The more advanced life exists near it, the more power it gains." "But that doesn't make sense," Jack said. "Humanity has been here for thousands of years. We've developed technology, civilization. Why hasn't it broken free?" Lisa gasped as she read new data. "Because we're different. These readings, they show something unique about human biology. We evolved alongside it, developed natural resistance. We're not just living on Earth, we're part of its prison system." The chamber suddenly shook as another energy surge came from Earth, stronger than any before. The holographic displays flickered, showing the entity in the core becoming more active. "It's not just waking up," Walsh said grimly. "It's testing its bounds. And now it knows we found out about it." Jack looked at the swirling hologram of the entity, then at the detailed plans the aliens had left. They didn't just leave us notes about how to monitor it, he realized. They left us everything they knew about containing it. They were preparing us for this moment. The chamber shook again, and they all knew their real work was just beginning. Humanity hadn't just inherited Earth, they'd inherited the most important job in the galaxy. And failure wasn't an option. Back on Earth, the team set up their new command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Jack Carter watched as Dr. Eric Martinez, their new geophysicist, studied the data they had brought back from Mars. "These readings are off the charts," Eric said, pointing to his screens. "The entity is generating more energy than 1,000 nuclear plants, and it's growing stronger each day." Lisa Bennett worked at a nearby station, comparing the alien data with their current readings. The containment systems are still holding, but they're under more stress than ever before. We need to understand how they work if we want to maintain them. The mountain facility shook slightly as another energy pulse came from the Earth's core. These tremors have become common over the past few weeks, felt worldwide, but particularly strong near the major containment points. "That's the third one today," Commander Walsh noted, checking the global sensor network they had set up. "They're getting more frequent." Jack walked to the main display, where a real-time image of Earth's interior showed the swirling energy mass at its core. The alien records say this thing was trapped here before life began on Earth. The planet formed around it, shaped by the containment technology. "And that technology shaped us too," Lisa added. "Look at this genetic data. Human DNA contains patterns that match the containment field frequencies. We evolved to be compatible with the prison systems." Eric brought up new scans on the main screen. "I've mapped out the main control points. There are 7 of them, spread across the planet's crust. Each one generates a field that helps hold the entity in place. The 7 points match the locations of the world's strongest magnetic anomalies," Walsh observed. "Places humans have always felt drawn to, but never understood why." A red alert flashed across their screens. One of the containment points, located in the Pacific Ocean, was showing signs of stress. "We need to stabilize it," Jack said, moving quickly to the control system they had built using the alien designs. "Lisa, help me adjust the frequency." They worked together, using knowledge gained from the Martian outpost to strengthen the failing containment field. Slowly, the warning lights turned green again. "That was too close," Lisa whispered, wiping sweat from her forehead. "But we did it. We actually managed to control the alien technology." Eric studied the readings from their intervention. "It's responding to us better than it did to the alien races. The systems recognize our biological signatures as authorized users. Because we're part of the design," Jack realized. "Humanity isn't just living on a prison planet. We're its maintenance system. We evolved to be its caretakers." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Their entire species had developed for this purpose, shaped by forces they were only now beginning to understand. Commander Walsh brought up the global map. "We need to establish teams at each containment point, train them to maintain the systems, prepare for emergencies." "There's something else," Lisa said, her voice tense. She pointed to new data streaming in. "The entity is trying to communicate. It's learning to match our brainwave patterns." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. The alien records warned about this. It tries to influence its jailers, convince them to set it free. That's what happened to the other races. They couldn't resist its influence. "But we can," Eric said firmly. "Our brains developed natural shielding against its powers. That's why the aliens left everything to us. They knew we were the only ones who could handle it." Another tremor shook the facility, stronger than before. On their screens, the entity's energy patterns grew more complex, more organized. "It knows we've discovered the truth," Jack said, watching the swirling patterns. "Now comes the real test. Not just containing it, but resisting its attempts to control us." Lisa stood beside him, her face determined. "We've spent our whole history preparing for this, even if we didn't know it. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our intelligence. It's our ability to stand against things that should be impossible to resist. The entity pulsed again, sending waves of energy through the Earth's core. But this time, they were ready. The human race had finally awakened to its true purpose, and they would not fail in their duty as the universe's last line of defense. Dr. Susan Taylor stood before the containment facility's main screen, her eyes fixed on the strange patterns emerging from Earth's core. As the team's xenobiologist, she had spent the last month studying the entity's attempts at communication. It's not just sending random signals anymore, she explained to Jack Carter and the others. It's creating organized patterns, trying to match our thought processes. Can you understand what it's trying to say? Jack asked, watching the swirling energies pulse and shift. Some of it, Susan replied. It speaks in concepts more than words. Images, feelings, memories. But they're alien. Looking at them too long gives me headaches. Lisa Bennett monitored the containment field readings. The energy levels are still rising. Each time it communicates, it gets stronger. The facility shook as another pulse came from the core. These tremors had become stronger in the past week, testing the limits of their control systems. Show them what you found, Commander Walsh said to Susan, his face grim. She nodded and brought up new data. The entity isn't just trapped here, it's being punished. It came from a universe where the laws of physics were different. It tried to change our universe to match its home. Change our universe? Eric Martinez asked from his station. How is that even possible? It can alter reality itself, Susan explained. Reshape matter, energy, even space and time. The aliens who imprisoned it here found out the hard way. Entire solar systems were destroyed before they managed to trap it. Jack studied the new information. So Earth isn't just a prison. It's a conversion chamber. The containment systems aren't just holding it in. They're slowly changing it to match our universe's laws. Exactly, Susan confirmed. But it's fighting back. Those 7 alien races, they didn't just run away. The entity showed them visions of its home universe, offered them power beyond imagination. They fled because they knew they couldn't resist forever. The main screen flickered as new patterns emerged. This time, they formed into almost recognizable shapes, structures that seemed to twist in impossible ways, creatures that hurt the eyes to look at. It's showing us its home, Lisa whispered, trying to make us understand. Susan quickly adjusted the filters, blurring the images. Don't look directly at them. The human mind can resist its influence, but there are limits. A new tremor shook the facility, stronger than before. Warning lights flashed across their control panels. The containment field in Sector 3 is weakening, Eric reported. The entity is pushing harder than ever. Jack moved to the controls, working with Lisa to stabilize the field. It knows we can understand it now. It's trying to convince us to let it out. Some of its arguments are compelling, Susan admitted. It shows us technology we can barely imagine, knowledge that could advance humanity by centuries. That's how it works, Commander Walsh said firmly. It offers what you want most, makes you think you can control it. But the aliens' records are clear. Nothing can control it. Once free, it would remake everything to match its universe. The entity's patterns changed again, forming into complex mathematical equations that promised answers to humanity's greatest questions. We can't look away forever, Lisa said. We need to understand it to contain it, but understanding it means exposing ourselves to its influence. Jack watched the swirling patterns, feeling the alien thoughts brush against his mind. Then we do it together. No one faces this alone. We take shifts, watch each other for signs of influence. Susan nodded in agreement. The entity doesn't understand human connection. It thinks in terms of power and knowledge, but not trust or friendship. That's our advantage. Another tremor rocked the facility, but the team held steady at their posts. They had found their balance, close enough to study and contain the entity, but not so close that they lost themselves to its promises. "We're not just guards anymore," Jack said, watching his team work. "We're something the entity has never faced before. A species that evolved specifically to resist it, working together to keep reality itself safe." The entity pulsed again, its patterns both beautiful and terrifying. But humanity's watchers stood firm, ready to face whatever came next in their role as the universe's most unlikely but most effective guardians. The control room felt heavy with tension as Jack Carter watched the latest energy readings. 2 months had passed since they'd first learned Earth's true purpose, and the entity's attempts to communicate had grown more sophisticated each day. "It's offering us something new," Susan Taylor said, studying the patterns on her screen. "Not just knowledge this time. It's showing us how to reshape reality itself." Lisa Bennett looked up from her station. "The containment fields are holding, but the entity's power keeps growing. Its thoughts are getting clearer, more focused." The room's lights flickered as another pulse came from Earth's core. The entity's patterns formed into complex images that seemed to bend the laws of physics just by existing. "Look at this," Eric Martinez called out, pointing to his monitors. "It's not just sending messages anymore. It's creating small bubbles where our universe's laws don't apply." Commander Walsh moved closer to the main display. "How is that possible?" "The containment fields should prevent any reality alterations. It's working through us," Susan explained, her voice tight, "using our connection to the containment systems as a bridge. The more we understand it, the more influence it gains." Jack watched as another reality bubble formed, this one lasting longer than the others. Inside it, objects moved in impossible ways, energy flowed backward, and time seemed to twist around itself. "It's beautiful," Lisa whispered, then shook her head quickly. "No, that's what it wants us to think. We can't let ourselves be drawn in." The entity's patterns shifted again, forming into clear thoughts that they could all understand. "Your universe is limited. Let me show you true freedom." The other races, Jack said slowly, they didn't just run because they were afraid. They ran because they were tempted. The entity offered them power beyond anything they could imagine. Susan nodded. "But we're different. We evolved alongside it, developed natural resistance. That's why we can study it without losing ourselves completely." Another pulse shook the facility. This time, the reality bubble that formed showed them visions of Earth transformed. A world where humanity had evolved beyond physical limitations, where thought could reshape matter. "It's offering us evolution," Eric said, his voice filled with wonder. "A chance to become something more than human." Commander Walsh's voice cut through the moment. "And destroy everything we are in the process. Remember the alien records? Nothing survived in its universe as we would understand survival." The entity's messages grew stronger. "Your prison is your limitation. Free me, and free yourselves." Jack looked around at his team, seeing the conflict on their faces. The entity's offers were becoming harder to resist, its promises more tempting with each passing day. "We need to make a choice," he said finally. "Not just for ourselves, but for all humanity. Do we maintain the prison, or do we risk everything for what it offers?" Lisa moved to stand beside him. "The aliens who built this prison gave us this responsibility because we could resist its influence, not just as individuals, but as a species." "But what if it's telling the truth?" Eric asked. "What if we're limiting ourselves by keeping it contained?" Susan brought up the original alien warnings. "Every race that came before us asked these same questions. They all chose to run rather than risk being corrupted. But we have something they didn't." "What's that?" Walsh asked. "We're part of the prison," she replied. "Not just its guards, but its living components. Freeing the entity wouldn't evolve us. It would destroy what makes us human." Another reality bubble formed, larger than before, showing them wonders and horrors beyond imagination. But this time, they watched it with clear eyes. "We choose to be what we are," Jack said firmly. "Human. Limited, maybe, but real. True to our universe and its laws." The entity's patterns surged with what might have been frustration or respect. It was hard to tell with something so alien. But the team stood firm, their choice made. They would remain humanity, remain guardians, and protect not just their world, but the very nature of reality itself. It was their purpose, their evolution, and their choice. 1 year after their discovery of Earth's true nature, the control facility had grown into a global operation. Jack Carter stood in the new command center, watching teams from around the world monitor the containment systems. The integration of alien technology with human innovation is proceeding better than expected, William Foster announced. As the head of the newly formed Earth Defense Initiative, he had been instrumental in organizing humanity's response to their new reality. Lisa Bennett looked up from her station, where she was reviewing the latest containment field modifications. Our understanding of the systems has improved dramatically. We're not just maintaining them anymore. We're enhancing them. The main screen showed a world map marked with the 7 primary containment points, each now staffed by trained teams who understood their true purpose. The entity's still trying to communicate, Susan Taylor reported, but its influence is weaker now. Our collective resistance grows stronger each day. Commander Walsh nodded in approval. The training programs are working. Every new operator develops natural shields against its influence within weeks. A slight tremor ran through the facility. The entity's pulses had become routine now, more like a heartbeat than an attack. The containment fields adjusted automatically, their human-modified systems responding faster than the original alien designs. "We've come a long way," Jack said, looking at the assembled team. "A year ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. Now we know we're its guardians." Eric Martinez brought up new data on the auxiliary screens. The entity's power levels are stabilizing. Our modifications to the containment fields are actually helping it adapt to our universe's laws. Not just containing it, Lisa added, but gradually transforming it. The aliens who built this prison couldn't stay to finish the job, but we can. William Foster moved to the central platform. The world's governments have finally accepted the truth. Resources are being redirected to support our mission. Humanity is uniting around a common purpose. Another pulse came from the entity, but this time its patterns were different, less hostile, more ordered. The reality bubbles it once created had become rare and smaller when they did appear. "It's learning," Susan observed, "not just about us, but from us. Our presence, our resistance, is teaching it about our universe's natural order." Jack watched the energy patterns shift and flow. Maybe that was the plan all along. Not just to imprison it, but to help it evolve. And we evolved alongside it, becoming exactly what was needed. The facility hummed with activity as operators monitored their stations, each trained to understand both the alien technology and their own innate connection to it. Humanity had grown into its role as universal wardens with remarkable speed. The other races couldn't handle this responsibility, Commander Walsh said. They saw only the risk and the temptation. We see the purpose. And we're getting better at it every day. Lisa added, each new generation born on Earth has stronger natural defenses, better intuition for working with the containment systems. William Foster pulled up the long-term projections. At this rate, in another 1,000 years, the entity might be fully converted to our universe's laws. Our descendants will witness the completion of a process that began millions of years ago. A final pulse rippled through the facility, but now they understood it for what it was, not an attack or an attempt at escape, but part of a vast, cosmic transformation. The entity, Earth, and humanity were all part of something greater than they had imagined. "We're not just guards anymore," Jack said, looking at his team. "We're teachers, guides, helping reshape something ancient into something new. And in the process, we're reshaping ourselves." The main screen showed the entity's current state, still powerful, still alien, but slowly, steadily changing. Humanity had accepted its role not in fear or resignation, but with determination and hope. They were the first species to truly understand Earth's purpose, and they would be the ones to see it through. The stars might seem empty, but humanity knew better. They were the guardians of reality itself, and they would never abandon their post. As another day dawned over their prison planet, the Watchers stood ready, knowing that their greatest purpose was not just to contain the ancient horror, but to guide it toward a new future, one where it might finally find its place in their ordered universe.